What's going on, guys? This is Rob. If you guys enjoy my content, make sure you hit the subscribe button and make sure you hit that little bell so you never miss out on my sexy voice. Okay, so picking back up again with Infinity Wars, the third installment, Infinity Wars Part 3. This really feels like it kind of spoils the ending of Avengers 4, although probably not. But Gamora again has the Infinity Stones. Now again, this is weird when it comes to Gamora's character. She's always been solid. Like, Gamora's always been like pretty solid, but it seems like such a sudden shift. It's just kind of weird to see her shift up like this. But the idea is that she's wielding all the Infinity Stones, and basically Loki had tried to find some way to barter with her. Now, this is kind of the funny thing, is because Gamora's been around, she's been around the block more than a few times. So she's familiar, not really super familiar with Loki, but she's familiar with people like Loki. And so where Loki pops up and he's just kind of whispering these honeyed words and so on and so forth, she immediately sees right through it. Because remember, the goal of Loki is to figure out what in the world is going on here in terms of how to basically stop it all happening. Because when he received a vision, I guess really when he was met with an alternate reality version of himself, we ended up finding out this battle is raging, this exact kind of battle is raging across the entirety of the multiverse. And in fact, the way that this plays out is Thanos' kind of essence, or his invisible spirit, his consciousness or whatever, appears to Gamora and says, with the Infinity Stones, you would be able to peer into other universes and see if this is true. Now, this is new. This is not something we'd ever seen before. The Infinity Stones historically never allowed anybody to do anything that would in any form or fashion impact other universes. It doesn't work that way. That was really kind of solidified during Hickman's Avengers and New Avengers when Captain America tried to push another universe away and destroy the gems in the process. So it's just one of these things where it only allows you to manipulate and control the fundamental forces of a particular universe. So in reality, it's really kind of Jerry Dugan cooking the books a little bit in order to tell the story, but it works because when they peer into another universe, there is a character that's known as Requiem, but it's not Gamora. It's somebody else entirely. Now, who that person is never revealed to us, but Gamora herself really kind of like disregards this and says, I don't really care. Like, that doesn't have anything to do with me. I'm controlling this universe right now. This universe is the only one that I'm worried about. Now, this is kind of cool because under normal circumstances, somebody else may have gone to investigate, like someone like Thor or somebody like Captain America or somebody along those lines. Even a villain like Ultron may have been like, well, if I can look into other universes, I can conquer other universes, and then just kind of go from there. But for Gamora, she's very on the nose, very cutthroat, and very straight and narrow. And so in this circumstance, it's basically, I'm only worried about what I can see and what I can do here. I'm not going to be distracted by anything else, which is kind of cool because following that, she basically releases everybody from the time stone because they've basically been frozen in time this whole time. She releases everybody from the time stone and then says, all of you guys are going to end up getting in my way. I'm going to fold space onto itself. Now, we're not really, that's kind of the crazy thing. We're not really given a motivation for why she's really doing any of this. She just is. And that's why it's kind of crazy, is because her pursuit of the Infinity Stones, really the Soul Stone, seemed to be based on the idea that she was trying to reclaim a portion of herself that had always been trapped in there ever since she, Adam Warlock, and Pip the Troll first entered. And so that made sense. Now, she's just doing it for the sake of doing it. And there doesn't really seem to be a reason why. She's just kind of folding the universe in half because whatever the story needs to be told. So it's kind of strange that she would be the one to do all this. It's kind of a weird scenario, but nonetheless, and going through and basically saying that you guys have become more or less a hassle, you as superheroes, I'm going to fold the universe in on itself, and then whatever happens, happens. What she doesn't foresee is that they all begin to kind of merge into each other. This is Jerry Dugan really grabbing a page out of the old Amalgam comics. For those of you guys who don't know what that is, back in the day, Marvel and DC had a couple different crossovers. You had Marvel versus DC, and then you had JLA Avengers, Justice League of America and the Avengers. The Marvel versus DC was actually the better one. JLA Avengers was okay, but what you ended up getting out of that was you basically had Amalgam, and it was a universe where the heroes were merged, where you had like Darkclaw, which was Batman and Wolverine merged into a singular person, just different things like that. And it was cool for what it was, but this is kind of a page out of that. The difference here is that it's isolated strictly to Marvel Comics. And so where these characters are really just kind of relegated and they're sort of confined, the first person we end up picking up with in this kind of new universe here is really like Captain America and Doctor Strange, really Private Stephen Rogers, who have been merged into a singular being together. And it's kind of a cool thing because this creates a whole universe unto itself. Now, this is very House of M in terms of how all this goes on. The difference between this story and House of M is House of M was a lot more complex. It was a lot more sprawled out. It was a lot more in depth, and there was a lot more going on there. I mean, you read like the main House of M story is just like 7 issues long or 6 issues long, or however many issues it is, maybe like 12, I can't remember off the top of my head. You read all the tie-ins, you're getting into like the 150 issue range. And the tie-ins expand the whole thing. They give you like this whole universe of House of M, the whole reality and how everything had changed and all that stuff. And it was pretty cool for what it was. It was reminiscent of like Age of Apocalypse or something like that. But for Gamora, she didn't actually expect this to happen. She didn't actually expect that the characters would merge together. And this is a small but noticeable thing, because what it means is that Gamora did not consider all ends. And that makes sense, because when it comes to someone like Thanos, he's been in control of absolute power a whole bunch of times, but he's also lived for so long. Thanos is old. He's thousands of years old. And so when you're talking about someone who is that old, you're talking about a guy who's been across the universe, who's had a lot of time to expand his knowledge, expand his experience, and who's coming to the table with more than just, I want to have the Infinity Stones and I want to wipe out half the life of the universe. You have a guy that has like far more motivation and is far more complex and in-depth than that. And so he's able to view things from perspectives that Gamora couldn't consider because she hasn't had the experience to give her a reason to consider it. And so it's kind of cool, because from there you end up having Loki, who basically says, look, what you have there is you have the God Quarry. On the far edge of the universe, you've got the God Quarry. Below that is the Quarry of Creation. And it's basically a new concept, really kind of seeming to hit on the idea that all the universes that exist in Marvel Comics all stem from the Quarry of Creation. Now, we don't really know what it is. We don't know how this whole thing functions. We don't know what process it serves. And we'll find out, as the story goes on. But it's kind of cool, because from here, having Gamora peek into this universe that she's basically made and looking at everything that's going on, we have like Iron Man and Thor who merge into one. You've got Black Panther and Ghost Rider who merge. Black Panther's riding like an actual panther, which looks pretty badass. You have what looks like Scarlet Witch and X-23 who merge. It's kind of a cool thing. It actually looks pretty awesome. And it sucks that it's so short-lived. I mean, we do get the Infinity Warps, which give you the story of all those characters and so on, which we will cover. But still, with Loki trying to more or less swindle his way in, book passage alongside Gamora in order to access the God Quarry and the Quarry of Creation, ultimately, he's basically set aside by Gamora. Her response is, you are not coming here because you are dubious, you are a person who tricks, you are a person that cannot be believed, and ultimately I believe that your basis or your entire existence is nefarious. And so Loki himself is confined to this new universe. Now, it's kind of a weird thing, because the way this is done, we don't know exactly how Gamora resides. If the universe has been folded in on itself, that would mean she was folded along with it, but there's no indication she stands outside of the universe. And if that's true, if she does stand outside the universe, then things get a little hairy, because at that point, technically speaking, the Infinity Stones should shut off. They should just cease to work, and she's just a person kind of floating out in oblivion. So it's a little strange in terms of how this happens. But again, the other half of this could very well be the universe itself isn't properly folded. She just screwed up all the heroes, which serves its purpose and it works for what it is. But from there, you basically end up picking up with her traveling to the God Quarry alongside the guy that basically, travels with Loki, the Chronicler, more or less. And then you end up having Loki, who travels directly to go see the X-Men. Now, this is where Loki kind of goes back into being his normal self, where he goes to visit what passes for the X-Men here and actually comes across Doop-pool. Now, Doop-pool is a combination of Doop and Deadpool, and Doop is amazing. Dude, I love Doop. He's like this Omega level character that just like never got fully fleshed out, and he had all kinds of crazy powers. He was part of X-Statix for a little while, but Doop is awesome. Dude, I love Doop. Like, he's like, Wolverine's the only one who ever understands him. Like, it's one of the craziest things. Wolverine's the only one that can understand his language. Nobody ever understands anything he says, but Doop is awesome. Like I love the character of Doop. I feel like we should do a video on him, just like cover his story or something along those lines, like the origin of Doop. I don't know if he actually has a definitive origin or not. I guess we should look that up. But still, with Loki showing up to meet Wolverine, we end up finding out that this is basically Wolverine and Emma Frost merged into a singular person, which is kind of strange because you would think it would be Emma Frost and Cyclops, but it's basically Wolverine and Emma Frost merged into a singular person, which means that it's all the abilities of Wolverine combined with the really Omega level telepathy, this super powerful telepathy of Emma Frost, which is kind of cool because when Emma Frost scans the mind of Loki, Emma Frost, or I guess really Wolverine, realizes Loki's telling the truth, but ultimately shuts his door in the face and says, I don't want to have anything to do with what's going on here. Let sleeping dogs lie, let our universe be the way it is. So again, it seems very House of M in the sense that Wolverine has no idea how things are supposed to be. Instead, he's just kind of like, well, like this is the universe the way it's always been. The difference is that in the House of M universe, Wolverine woke up realizing things weren't right. Like he woke up realizing things aren't the way they're supposed to be, and he was a way for Bendis to kind of write it into the story. But here it seems like Wolverine, alongside everybody else, is totally aware of what's going on. Like he's totally aware of the fact that like this reality seems to be an absolute truth. He doesn't know anything outside of that. So it's kind of cool and it's kind of interesting. But again, it's really left to Loki to try to find some way to basically save his universe and kind of, set this one back to the way that it's supposed to be. It's kind of crazy, but honestly, I have no idea what direction it's going to take. But with that being said, guys, we're going to bring this video to an end. If you are new here to Comics Explained, make sure you guys hit the sub button to become part of the Rob Corps. If you guys enjoy this video, make sure you drop a like, and I will catch you all later. Peace.